Commander Taiwan gripped the controls of his scout ship tightly as warning lights flashed across the console. The small vessel shuddered, then went completely dark. Emergency power failed to engage. He was dead in space. Systems failure, he muttered, years of special forces training keeping his voice calm despite the situation. This was supposed to be a simple mapping mission to an uncharted planet at the edge of human-explored space. A shadow fell over his ship. Through the viewport, Taiwan saw a massive vessel approaching, unlike anything in human records. Its hull was covered with what looked like overlapping plates of armor, resembling the exoskeleton of an earth insect, scaled up to terrifying proportions. Taiwan reached for his emergency beacon, but before he could activate it, a strange vibration passed through his ship. The metal around him groaned as an invisible force pulled his vessel toward the alien craft. Tractor technology, he realized. Nothing in humanity's arsenal was this advanced. The hull creaked as his ship was swallowed into a massive docking bay. Taiwan grabbed his sidearm, though he suspected it would do little good. He had been trained to gather intelligence in hostile territory. That's what he would do now. The airlock hissed open without his command. 4 tall figures entered, each nearly 8 feet tall with gray-blue skin and complex armor that seemed to pulse with energy. Their faces were humanoid, but with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, all focused on him. "What is this creature?" asked one in a guttural language that somehow translated in Taiwan's mind. Another alien stepped forward, examining Taiwan, with obvious disdain. "A human," it replied with a dismissive wave of a 3-fingered hand. "Fragile species. No exoskeleton. Minimal muscle density. They rely on tools rather than natural strength." The aliens circled him, their postures conveying amusement. Taiwan remained still, assessing threats and gathering information. He noticed the aliens carried weapons resembling spears that crackled with energy at their tips. "Look at the thin skin," another said, prodding Taiwan's arm with a clawed finger. "So easy to tear." "We are the Kwarang," the lead alien announced, looking down at Taiwan. "You now belong to the circuit." "The circuit?" Taiwan asked, breaking his silence. This seemed to surprise them. Perhaps they hadn't expected him to understand their language. "It speaks," the leader said. "Yes, human. The greatest fighting circuit in the galaxy. Species from 1,000 worlds. Compete for glory and survival." Another alien laughed, a harsh sound like stones grinding together. "Though compete is generous for your kind, you won't last 3 minutes in the arena." The alien jabbed Taiwan with an electrified staff. Pain shot through his body, but he refused to cry out. The special forces had taught him to endure worse. "Take it for processing," the leader ordered. 2 guards grabbed Taiwan's arms and dragged him from his ship. As they moved through the massive alien vessel, Taiwan carefully observed everything. He noted how the ship was laid out, where guards were posted, and the different types of aliens he saw. Some wearing armor, others in simple clothing that marked them as crew or servants. They brought him to a processing chamber where other aliens, clearly prisoners like himself, were being examined and tagged. Some roared in defiance, others cowered in fear. Taiwan did neither, maintaining his calm observation. "Scan it," ordered a Kwarang wearing what looked like medical equipment. A beam of light passed over Taiwan from head to toe. "Minimal threat," the medical officer announced. "No natural weapons, no enhanced abilities, average muscle density for its species." The Kwarang guards laughed again. "Put it in holding block 6, the officer said. "No special precautions needed." As they fitted Taiwan with a metal collar, he heard the guards placing bets. "I say it dies in its first match," one said. "Too generous," replied another. "It won't survive the training ground." Taiwan kept his face blank, but his mind was racing. He was gathering information, forming plans, looking for weaknesses. The alien saw only his physical limitations, not his training, not his intelligence, not his determination. They marched him down a long corridor toward what they called the holding blocks. Through a transparent barrier, Taiwan caught his first glimpse of the arena, a massive bowl-shaped structure where 2 massive creatures battled while thousands of aliens cheered. So this was the circuit, a gladiatorial combat system where captured beings fought for alien entertainment. As the guards shoved him into a cell, Taewon allowed himself a small hidden smile. These Kwarang had made a critical error. They had judged him solely on his physical attributes, failing to understand that humans had survived and thrived not through natural weapons or armor, but through intelligence and adaptability. They would learn their mistake too late. The guards shoved Taewon through a heavy metal door that slid open with a hiss. He stumbled into a large circular chamber filled with strange beings from across the galaxy. The air smelled of sweat and strange alien odors he couldn't identify. "Fresh meat," one of the guards announced before the door sealed shut behind him. The room fell silent as dozens of alien eyes turned to examine the newcomer. Taewon saw creatures with extra limbs, armored skin, and body types that defied human classification. Some looked like they could snap him in half without effort. Others had natural weapons, claws, spikes, or what appeared to be venomous appendages. Many turned away after a quick assessment, clearly unimpressed by what they saw. Taewon heard clicking sounds he assumed was laughter from a group of insectoid fighters in one corner. "Another soft one," a rumbling voice said from somewhere in the crowd. "Won't last a cycle." Taewon found an empty spot against the wall and sat down, taking stock of his surroundings. The holding area had sleeping platforms of various sizes, a central area where food was apparently distributed, and a section where crude training equipment was available. Most of the captives were grouped by species or apparent alliances. He was alone, the only human. For 2 days, no one spoke to him. The Kwarang handlers would arrive, toss in food containers, and leave. The stronger fighters took the best portions, leaving Taewon with barely enough to survive. He accepted this without complaint, watching and learning. On the 3rd day, as Taewon examined a rack of training weapons that the others had left after their practice, a shadow fell over him. "You hold that all wrong, human." He turned to see a tall, 4-armed female alien with blue-tinged skin. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, with a lean but powerful build. Unlike many others, she carried no obvious weapons or armor, just simple clothing marked with scars that suggested many arena battles. "You look lost," she said, her voice surprisingly gentle for her intimidating appearance. Taewon studied her face, humanoid but with wider-set eyes that reflected light like a cat's. "I could use some guidance," he admitted. She took the crude practice weapon from his hands and demonstrated a proper grip. "I am Bora, 15 cycles in the arena. That's why they haven't killed me yet. Taewon, Special Forces Earth." "Earth?" Bora tilted her head. "Never heard of it. Must be far from the Empire." "Very far," Taewon agreed. Something in his calm demeanor seemed to intrigue her. While other new captives raged or despaired, Taewon remained composed, observant. "You're going to die here," she said bluntly. Taewon nodded. "Probably, but not without learning something first." This response made Bora laugh, a musical sound that drew surprised looks from nearby aliens. "The doomed human has spirit," she said. "Come, I will show you things that might keep you alive for an extra day or two." Over the next few days, Bora became his unlikely mentor. During the training periods, she explained the different alien fighters and their weaknesses. "The Graith," she whispered, nodding toward a massive rock-like being. "Strong but slow. Their joints are vulnerable where the plates meet." "The Silith," she continued, indicating a serpentine creature practicing deadly fast strikes. "Their vision is poor. They sense movement. Stay still when they attack, then strike after they commit." Each day, the Kwarang handlers would come to observe, pointing at Taewon and making jokes. They deliberately gave him inferior equipment. Broken, practice weapons, protective gear too large or small for his frame. His food rations were notably smaller than those given to other fighters. "They want you weak for the arena," Bora explained. "They've placed many bets against you." "Then they'll lose their money," Taewon replied. At night, when the holding area lights dimmed and the other fighters slept, Taewon practiced alone. He adapted the movements Bora had shown him to his human physiology. Where he lacked the strength or extra limbs of his fellow captives, he compensated with precision and economy of motion. One night, Bora caught him practicing and watched silently from the shadows. "Why do you train when it's hopeless?" she asked finally. Taewon completed a complex sequence of movements before answering. "Humans don't accept hopeless situations. We adapt. Even against impossible odds." "Especially then," Taewon said. "Throughout our history, it's never been the strongest humans who survived. It was the most adaptable." Bora considered this. "I've seen 100 species come through here. None have survived their first match against a seasoned fighter." Taewon smiled. "Slightly. Then you haven't seen humans before." The next morning, as the Kwarang came to take the first fighters for the day's matches, one pointed at Taewon. "The human is next," he announced with a cruel laugh. "Get it ready." Bora placed one of her 4 hands on Taewon's shoulder. "Remember what I taught you. Die with honor, at least." Taewon nodded to her. "Thank you for your help. But I don't plan on dying today." As the guards approached to take him to the arena, Taewon felt strangely calm. Human adaptability would be his greatest weapon, a strength these aliens couldn't understand or anticipate. They saw only his physical limitations, not the millennia of human evolution that had created a species that thrived on overcoming impossible challenges. Today, the Kwarang would learn what humans were truly capable of. The arena doors rumbled open, and bright light poured in, momentarily blinding Taewon. The roar of thousands of alien spectators hit him like a physical wave. The Kwarang guard shoved him forward into the vast circular fighting pit, its floor covered with dark sand that sparkled with strange minerals. "Today's appetizer," boomed, a voice over the sound system. A soft-bodied human facing the undefeated cracks. The crowd's roar grew louder as a second door opened across the arena. A massive reptilian creature emerged, standing over 9 feet tall with thick armored scales that gleamed like metal under the harsh lights. Its powerful tail slammed the ground, sending up clouds of sparkling dust. The creature's jaws opened, to reveal rows of jagged teeth as it let out a bellowing roar that shook the arena. "Our fragile human sacrifice won't last 2 minutes against the mighty cracks," the announcer declared, prompting jeers and laughter from the audience. Taewon stood, perfectly still, taking measured breaths. The guards had given him only minimal protection, thin leather armor that would barely stop a punch, let alone the cracks' claws, and a short metal rod that seemed comically inadequate against his massive opponent. The cracks pawed the ground like an angry bull, its yellow eyes fixed on Taewon. A horn blared, signaling the start of the match. The reptilian creature charged immediately, covering the distance between them with shocking speed for something so large. Its claws extended, ready to tear the human apart with a single swipe. The crowd leaned forward, eager to see blood. But Taewon had been watching, learning, preparing. At the last possible moment, he slipped to the side, not diving or jumping, but with a precise, controlled movement that put him exactly where he needed to be. As the cracks barreled past, Taewon struck with his metal rod, targeting the unprotected joint behind the creature's knee, exactly where Bora had told him to hit. The cracks let out a howl of pain and surprise. It stumbled, momentarily thrown off balance. The crowd's cheering faltered, replaced by confused murmurs. The cracks whirled around, now moving with a slight limp. Its yellow eyes narrowed with rage. This time it approached more cautiously, sweeping its powerful tail in a wide arc to catch Taewon no matter which way he dodged. Taewon watched the tail's movement, timing its sweep. At precisely the right moment, he jumped, not away, but toward the tail, landing on top of it and using its momentum to propel himself directly at the cracks' body. Before the creature could react, Taewon delivered another precise strike to a nerve cluster at the base of its neck. Another weakness Bora had revealed. The cracks' right arm went limp, the claws retracting involuntarily. Now the arena had fallen almost completely silent. This wasn't going according to the script. "The human shows unexpected agility," the announcer said, surprise evident in his voice. The cracks was furious now, charging with reckless abandon, but its movements had become predictable. Taewon continued his strategy, never meeting strength with strength, but using his opponent's power against it. Each time the creature attacked, Taewon would strike another pressure point or joint with scientific precision. After 5 minutes, the Krax was limping badly, one arm useless, its breathing labored. After 10 minutes, it could barely stand. Finally, with a calculated strike to a cluster of nerves near its spine, Taewon rendered the creature's back legs immobile. The Krax collapsed to the ground, unable to rise, though still conscious and snarling. Taewon stood over his fallen opponent, metal rod raised for a killing blow. The crowd had gone completely silent, watching in disbelief. But Taewon did not strike. Instead, he stepped back and lowered his weapon. "Finish it," someone shouted from the stands. Taewon looked up at the Kwarang officials in their luxury box. His message was clear. He would not kill without reason. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then a horn sounded, signaling the end of the match. "The human wins," the announcer said, sounding confused by his own words. Silence fell over the arena, followed by confused murmurs that gradually grew into scattered applause, then significant cheering, not from the Kwarang, but from other subjugated species in the audience. They had never seen anyone defeat a Krax with such calculated efficiency, especially not a physically unimposing species like a human. In their luxury box, the Kwarang bookmakers slammed their fists on tables and shouted in anger. The human was supposed to die, not win. Thousands of bets would have to be paid out. "This cannot stand," one of them growled. "Next time we match it against something it cannot possibly defeat." As guards escorted Taewon back to the holding area, he noticed the other fighters looking at him differently than before. There was no pity in their eyes now, only curiosity, and perhaps even a hint of respect. Bora was waiting for him, her four, arms crossed over her chest and a smile on her alien face. "You remembered what I taught you," she said. "Every word," Taewon replied. "There's more to humans than physical strength." "Indeed," Bora said thoughtfully. "Perhaps there is." That night, as Taewon sat alone eating his rations, which had mysteriously increased in quantity, 3 other fighters approached him. One was a swift-moving being with 6 legs, another had skin that seemed to shift colors like a chameleon, and the third was a massive creature that appeared to be made of living stone. "We saw your match," the 6-legged one said. "We would hear more about these human tactics." Taewon smiled slightly. This was just the beginning. The Kwarang had made a critical error in bringing a human into their games. They had given him a platform, allies, and a reason to fight. They would soon learn that humans were the most dangerous when underestimated. The crowd roared as Taewon dodged another attack from the 6-legged Vrax fighter. The alien was blindingly fast, its limbs a blur of motion as it tried to corner the human in the arena. This was Taewon's 5th match in 3 weeks, and the Kwarang had selected increasingly dangerous opponents for him. But Taewon had studied the Vrax. He knew they tired quickly, burning through their energy in powerful bursts. So he ran, dodged, and waited, conserving his strength while his opponent exhausted itself. "The human runs like a coward," the announcer taunted, but some in the crowd knew better. When the Vrax finally slowed, Taewon struck with precision and speed. The match ended with the alien unconscious but alive, another victory for the human who refused to kill. In the holding area, Bora handed Taewon water as he returned. "You're making powerful enemies," she warned. "The bookmakers have lost fortunes betting against you." "And making friends too," Taewon replied, nodding toward the growing group of fighters who now acknowledged him with respect. 3 more matches came and went. Each time, Taewon faced a different type of alien with different abilities. Each time, he adapted his strategy. Against a creature that generated electrical pulses, he used the insulating properties of the arena sand. Against a floating gas-based life form, he used its sensitivity to pressure changes against it. The arena crowds began chanting his name. "Taewon, Taewon." The common aliens, those not of the ruling Kwarang, had found an unlikely champion in the small human who consistently overcame impossible odds. The Kwarang media began calling him the human anomaly, a name that spread across their empire. Merchandise appeared in the stands, crude drawings of the human fighter on flags and clothing. Betting patterns shifted. Now many bet on Taiwan despite the increasingly dangerous opponents he faced. After his 8th victory, 3 fighters approached him in the training area. "I am Jin Wu," said the first, a lean alien with skin that reflected light like polished metal. "Your victory against the Shadow Beast was impressive. It would have killed me in seconds." "Hana," introduced the second, a female alien whose skin and features seemed to constantly shift and blend with her surroundings. "I have studied battle tactics for 20 cycles. You understand strategy better than most Kwarang generals." The third was massive, appearing to be made of living stone with glowing veins of energy running through its body. "Day," it rumbled. "5 years in arena, never seen fighting like yours." "We want to learn," Jinwoo said simply. Taewon studied them carefully. "It's not just about learning to fight," he said quietly. "It's about something bigger." "Freedom?" Hana whispered, her camouflage abilities subtly activating to ensure no Kwarang could read her lips. Taewon nodded slightly. "If you're interested in that, then yes, I'll teach you." Over the following weeks, Taewon's small group grew. Under the guise of training sessions, he began forming what looked like a competitive team, but was actually the beginning of a resistance. He taught them human military tactics, ways to communicate secretly, and how to identify weaknesses in the Kwarang security systems. Bora arranged for fighters from other holding areas to join during the common training periods. Soon fighters from a dozen species were part of Taiwan's growing network. The Kwarang noticed his popularity, but misinterpreted it as mere admiration for a successful fighter. They increased security, but focused on keeping him in, not on what he might be planning. After his 12th consecutive victory, something unprecedented happened. The arena fell silent as the supreme champion of the Kwarang fighting circuit entered after Taiwan's match. Hyuk was a mountain of muscle and armor, the ultimate Kwarang warrior who had never been defeated in 15 years. He wore a helmet, adorned with trophies from fallen opponents, and carried a weapon that hummed with deadly energy. "Human." Hyuk's voice boomed across the arena. "Your tricks amuse the crowds, but they are not true combat. I challenge you to face me in a death match. Prove your worth or admit your species is nothing but clever vermin." The crowd erupted. This was the ultimate spectacle, the undefeated champion against the human anomaly. Taewon stepped forward, his face revealing nothing. "I accept," he called, back causing another wave of excitement to sweep the arena, but then he raised his hand for silence. "On one condition." The arena grew quiet. Fighters did not make conditions. "Name it, human," Hyuk growled, amused by the audacity. "Better food, and treatment for all gladiators. Medical care after matches, no more keeping fighters half-starved." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Hyuk looked to the Kwarang officials in their luxury box. After a brief consultation, the head of the circuit stood. "Agreed," he announced. "The death match will take place in 7 days. If the human survives until then." The Kwarang officials believed they were simply adding drama to their greatest spectacle. They never suspected that Taewon had just secured exactly what his resistance needed: stronger, healthier fighters with more access to different parts of the complex due to medical visits. That night, as his allies gathered around him, Jinwoo asked the question on everyone's mind. "Can you actually defeat Hyuk? He has killed 300 fighters." Taewon smiled slightly. "The match with Hyuk isn't the real battle. It's just the distraction." Bora's eyes widened with understanding. "The day of the championship match? Every important Kwarang official will be there," Taewon confirmed. "Every guard assigned to the arena rather than the holding areas." "And that's when we move," Hana whispered. Taewon nodded. "That's when we take back our freedom." The grand arena of the Kwarang Empire glowed with energy on the day of the championship match. Every seat was filled with spectators from across the galaxy packed into the massive structure. Huge screens displayed the event to millions more on 1,000 worlds. This was the most anticipated match in decades. Hyuk entered first, striding through the golden gate reserved for champions. His massive frame was adorned with trophies from fallen opponents, bone fragments, scale pieces, even what appeared to be preserved body parts. The crowd roared as he raised his arms, his armor gleaming under the bright lights. The second gate opened, and Taewon walked out. He looked impossibly small compared to the Kwarang champion. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Cheers from many. Common aliens who had come to admire the human's unlikely success. Jeers from the Kwarang who saw today as the end of an embarrassing chapter. The arena master, a decorated Kwarang general, stood from his special platform. Today's death match will restore honor to our great fighting tradition, he announced, his voice booming through the sound system. The champion Hyuk will demonstrate the proper dominance of superior species. Hyuk pounded his chest and roared. Taewon simply stretched his muscles, his face calm. Today, we end this human's lucky streak, the announcer bellowed to enthusiastic cheers. The signal horn blared, and the match began. Hyuk didn't charge recklessly as many of Taewon's previous opponents had. He moved with surprising discipline and control for his size. His first attack was a feint, followed by a lightning-quick secondary strike that caught Taewon across the ribs. The human was thrown several feet, landing hard on the arena floor. The crowd gasped. They had never seen anyone land a clean hit on the elusive human before. Taewon rose slowly, blood trickling from his mouth. This was different. Hyuk wasn't just strong, he was skilled. The fight continued with brutal intensity. Hyuk landed several blows that would have killed a lesser fighter. One strike dislocated Taewon's shoulder, another cracked ribs, but the human endured, using everything he had learned, every observation made during his time in captivity. The human weakens, the announcer declared as Taewon was knocked down for the fourth time. But something was changing in the arena. Observers with military training might have noticed that Hyuk was breathing harder than expected. The champion's movements, while still devastating, had lost some of their precision. As the match entered its 30th minute, far longer than anyone had expected the human to last, Taewon began to move differently. His fighting style transformed. No longer just avoiding and countering, he began to attack with techniques the Kwarang had never seen before. "What is this?" muttered spectators as Taewon executed movements that seemed to defy the limitations of his species. It wasn't just about strength or speed, but creativity, adaptability, human ingenuity. Techniques developed across thousands of years of human martial arts, modified and combined in ways unique to Taewon's training. Hyuk found himself increasingly on the defensive, unable to predict the human's attacks. For the first time in 15 years, the champion looked uncertain. In the stands, Kwarang officials leaned forward in alarm. This was not going according to plan. With a precisely targeted series of strikes to neural clusters and joint weaknesses that Bora had helped him identify, Taewon systematically disabled the champion's advantages. When the final blow came, a strike to a pressure point behind Hyuk's ear, it was almost anticlimactic. The mighty Kwarang champion swayed, then collapsed to the arena floor, unconscious, but alive. Silence fell over the arena, broken only by the sound of Taewon's heavy breathing. Then, instead of celebrating his victory, Taewon raised his hand high, not in triumph, but as a signal. Throughout the arena, disguised gladiators who had been strategically placed among the crowd suddenly rose up. Bora appeared at one of the security stations, her forearms quickly overtaking the guards. Jinwoo used his reflective skin to blind security cameras. Hana, nearly invisible with her camouflage, disabled force field generators. Days stone-like. Body absorbed weapon fire as he smashed through barriers. The resistance had begun. Kwarang officials scrambled for escape as chaos erupted. Guards found themselves overwhelmed by fighters who had spent weeks secretly planning for this moment. Taewon sprinted across the arena floor, dodging confused guards to reach the broadcast control center. The few technicians inside fled as he entered. With knowledge gained from careful observation of Kwarang technology, he quickly reconfigured the system. His face appeared on every screen across the empire, in arenas, public spaces, and even on the ships that transported enslaved fighters. "I am Commander Taewan of Earth," he announced, his voice calm but forceful. "Humanity has joined the stars, and we bring freedom with us. To all fighters held captive by the Kwarang, today, we fight back. They are not invincible. They can be defeated through cooperation and strategy." He looked directly into the camera, his eyes intense. "The signal I am sending also contains the codes to disable your restraint collars and the security systems of your holding areas. Rise up. Take control. Freedom begins now." As he finished speaking, alarms blared throughout the complex. Emergency messages flooded in from across the Empire. Uprisings had begun on dozens of worlds simultaneously. In the grand arena, Bora approached Taewan as he exited the broadcast center. "It worked," she said, amazement in her voice. "The revolution has begun." Taewan nodded, looking out over the arena where fighters and formerly subjugated species were taking control. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Earth will want to know about the Kwarang, and the Kwarang will need to learn there are some species you should never underestimate." Across 1,000 worlds, the revolution spread like wildfire. The Empire, that had captured and enslaved fighters for sport, now faced the greatest fight of all, against those they had trained to be warriors and then underestimated. The human anomaly had changed everything.